Okay, so we're back in 2021. Still at the art school. I'm still at the business school. I'm writing my thesis. Still doing work. So just overall busy. A little bit less busy than before, but still like art school. Art school was pretty easy. Like just to keep it honest. Like compared to the business school. um And it was way more fun too, like way more chill, way more laid back. Um, I actually really enjoy the process of art school. And I feel like the art school process should be something that is applied across different education subjects. So like for example, in art school, it's very hands-on, it's very experimental, it's very um just open, I guess. Like it's not a rigid sort of course structure. It's a very, very, very open thing. I mean, obviously I understand that there's certain subjects where that doesn't work and you need to have certain structure, but other ones, I just feel like it's a good like thought experiment to just learn how to think, to just learn how to think. Um because we used to do exercises like creative exercises. And I used to think that I was creative until I actually would go through some of the exercise. And I was like, dang, like I actually am not that creative. Like I am creative, but it's like it's harder than it looks. And then you realize that a lot of people are could enhance their creativity with some, I guess, guidance or exercises that just forces you to think more outside of the box, you know? Um, so yeah, and I used to live like where I was living in France. I have a friend who's still a good friend of mine to this day, and he was a producer. So we used to go to his apartment and just like make beats and just chill and rap and do all this stuff. So that was dope. But at the same time, like the classes that I was taking, it was challenging because I was taking two classes sometimes like at the exact same time. So sometimes like I'd have one professor talking to me about like footwear design, and then the other professor would be talking to me about like corporate finance or like Chinese or something like that. So they're both talking at the same time. Um, and that was just a trip. But I was working on my thesis. That was a lot of work. But it was good. And at this time, I would say that I was really just focused on one thing. I think that's really important too, is like just to focus on one thing at a time. Like I was just trying not to think too much about like the future or think too much about the past and just focus on what I was doing like one day at a time. Because otherwise just becomes easy to become like overwhelmed with everything. Um, so I was doing that. I did that up until the end, and then I almost same thing. I don't know why, like I almost didn't graduate, bro. I almost didn't graduate. So fast forward until like spring, summer, and I was gonna go back home to LA. Like I was gonna go see friends, like see a little bit of family and everything like that. And this was the end. And I had taken my last finance final. Um, and how it works, there's a certain like structure, like system there where you're allowed to fail one class. And so I thought this like I guess sort of like the same situation I had before. I was like, okay, well, I don't need this class because the in the rules it says you can fail one class. I was like, all right, well, it's gonna be this class. It's gonna be this class. Um, so I took the final, and in Europe, when you take the final, there's also a resit. So like if you fail the final, you have one chance to retake the test, and that retake of the test will offset the whole entire grade of the class if you pass. So the test is out of 20 and you need to get over a 10 to pass. And if you get under a 10, then you have to do the reset or the retest. Um, but as I said, the retest wipes out your whole grade and replaces it with the grade of the retest. So in this situation, this particular class, that I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna fail this class. In order to get the diploma, the failed class had to be a 6 out of 10. So I was like, okay, um, as long as I get at least above a 6, then I'm like literally fine. So I do the thing, I take the test, I get an 8. I'm like, all right, cool, like I'm chilling. Like I'm good, I'm solid. Um, and then a couple weeks later, they're like, "Oh, you have to do the retest." I was like, "What are you talking about? This is the class that I'm like taking the L on. Like, why would I have to take the retest? The retest would change my whole grade. Plus, I haven't studied it in a while." They're like, "No, no, no. You need to take the retest. Like, it's part of the rules." I was like, "Bro, that's just stupid. Like, that's just dumb. Like, why would I have to take the retest?" And this is like weeks after the final, and at this point, I'm about to go to LA. And they're like, no, you need to take the retest. So I email all the people that I can. I was like, this is just dumb. Like, I'm passing. I got an 8. The rule says that you can fail one class out of you know um the whole program and everything, and that's this class. They were like, no, but you got underneath the 10, so you have to take the retest. But I was like, okay, well, if I take the retest after a few weeks of not studying it and I do worse and get under the 6, um like the if I took the retest and the score on the retest was under a 6, that means that I would have had to retake the whole class. When you're allowed to fail one class as long as it's above a 6, and I already had an 8. So I was like, well, this is dumb, because if I fail, now I got to retake the whole class, and I haven't studied the subject at all in the last few weeks. Like, like at that point, I wouldn't say forgot it, but it was like, bro, like I had way more other stuff to deal with in this class. So, anyways, I'm in LA and I was like, all right, fuck it. Like, I got to just take this test. And so, like, I was literally in LA for maybe like 2 weeks. And the whole first week, I basically had to study. I was like, this is so just fucked up, bro. I had to study the whole time. Um, and this is a hard subject for me, so I was not happy about that. So I'm studying, bro. I'm studying for a few days. I'm studying like in the nights. I'm studying in the mornings and everything like that. Day comes, the test is like 4 in the morning or something like that, because it's European time and I'm in LA, so it's different. So yeah, I had to take the test at like 4 a.m. And luckily I had like really just locked in for like a few days and just figured it the fuck out, bro. So I did it, took the test. I got the exact same score, bro. I got an 8. I was like, this was literally pointless. This was literally pointless. Um, so I don't want to say it ruined like my whole thing, but for half of my trip, that was the first time I was in LA since I left. For half of the trip, I'm stuck studying a stupid test. You know, I mean, it is what it is, but I was like, bro, this is just dumb. Um, so anyways, past that school, I finished the art school final project, everything, finished the thesis, dunzos. Dunzos, 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 I'm fucking done. So that was really a great feeling, like a feeling of accomplishment. I feel like that feeling I got, this is what I was talking about in other videos, about like serotonin or depression, all that stuff. the fact that I had sort of recreated a long-term purpose that was really hard to obtain. And when I finally got there, like I had all this serotonin. You get what I'm saying? Because there was just such an intense feeling of accomplishment that I got from that. Um, and that did help. That did help because because like when I explained it in my other videos, it's contributing to my long-term goals. All those things, like all those little things, even though yes, it was like annoying to do, they still contribute to your long-term goals. So it makes sense why you're doing it. Okay, and I want to also make this point. Um, a really good thing that helps me in times where it's like you have to do those like little tedious sort of things, like if you're in school, for example, or if you're, you know, doing other things, is working backwards from where you want to be to where you are. Um, and then making the points of what you're doing now is the steps to get to where you are. So like for example, in 2018, 2019, all I could think about was getting to Europe or like getting, you know, to the end goal. And so in my head, when because I don't like to study, I'm not a good like study, you know, person. Like I just don't like to sit there and just read or whatever. Um, so when I'm sitting there, I just have it in my head, like, okay, I'm trying to get here. In order to get here first, I have to graduate. In order to graduate, I have to pass this class. In order to pass this class, I have to do well on this homework. And in order for me to do well on this assignment or whatever, I need to just put my energy into it right now. And so one big thing I feel like I started focusing on, and this is good for people like with ADHD, for example, or because this is just it's really just reprogramming how you're thinking about certain things. Um, like how I'm trying to think how I can put it. Like if you have if you're having a hard time focusing on one thing in your assignment, right? Um, and you're working backwards to get to the point where you're trying to get to. When you're present, like if you're present doing the assignment or if you're present in the lecture or something like that, it's gonna take you more times to relearn what you missed because you couldn't focus instead of just focusing the one time and doing it correctly the first time. Does that make sense? So if you just tell yourself that, you will save yourself time by sitting there very engaged and focused on what you're doing in the present moment. That will save you from having to redo it again, because a lot of times like when people are learning stuff, they're not really focused in it. They're not really engaged in it. And then you end up having to go like reread the chapter. You have to go end up like reread the lecture or whatever. You have to go reread or like watch YouTube videos and shit. But it's like, just do it correctly the first time. And that'll save you the other time that you can use to do other things that you enjoy doing. So if you're in a workshop or if you're in a seminar or whatever, just pay attention right there so you don't have to pay attention later, you know, so you don't have to spend time doing that stuff later so that you can do other things. Um, so when I started doing that, I feel like that really changed a lot for me too, because I was just actively trying to focus right in the first time. Um, except this fucking finance class, like that shit was hard. But yeah, so then I was in LA. Yeah.